Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered what true strength sounds like? Sometimes it's not in the loudest voice, but in the choice to say nothing at all. What if your greatest power wasn't in reacting, but in remaining still? And what if silence wasn't weakness, but your greatest form of control? When you stop reacting, something powerful begins to happen. You start to take back control over your own life. Too often, we go through our days in a state of constant reactivity, automatically responding to every comment, every glance, every situation thrown our way. It's like we're trapped in a loop, reacting to people's words, their actions, their tone, their mood, and letting it all dictate how we feel, how we think, and how we behave. But here's the truth. There is tremendous power in silence. There's a deep, unshakable strength in choosing not to react. Because the moment you respond impulsively, you're handing over the reins of your emotional state to someone else. You're giving them permission to steer your mood, your thoughts, and even your actions. And let me ask you honestly, how has that worked for you in the past? Has lashing out ever brought you peace? Has snapping back ever brought real healing? Chances are it hasn't. More often than not, reacting only pulls you further into emotional chaos. The situation escalates. Your mind becomes cluttered, your spirit exhausted, and your inner peace slips away. You feel overwhelmed, not because of what happened, but because of how you responded to it. But what if, just what if, you chose differently? What if you paused instead of panicked? What if you stood still instead of striking back? What if, in that critical moment, you chose silence over reaction? That's when something shifts. Because silence, true, intentional silence, is not weakness. It's strength refined. In today's noisy world, where everyone is shouting their opinions, fighting to be heard, and reacting at lightning speed, choosing silence is almost revolutionary. It's not backing down, it's standing firm. It's refusing to be dragged into someone else's emotional storm. It's protecting your energy, your peace, and your purpose. People will say what they want. They'll behave how they choose. That's outside your control. But how you respond, or don't respond, is your power. You are not a puppet on someone else's emotional strings. You are a person of value, of dignity, and of direction. And every time you choose not to react, you reclaim your focus on your growth, your journey, and your peace of mind. Now, take a moment and think back to those times when you reacted, when emotions ran high and your response came fast. Maybe it was during a heated exchange with someone you care about. Or perhaps it was in a situation that blindsided you and pushed all your buttons. In those moments, did reacting really bring peace? Did it offer clarity? Or did it only make things worse? The truth is, in most of those situations, 9 times out of 10, reacting in the heat of the moment doesn't resolve anything. It usually leads to words we wish we could take back, actions we regret, and consequences that linger far beyond the moment itself. It escalates the tension. It feeds the fire, and instead of healing, it causes further hurt. But when you make the intentional decision not to react, you're doing something powerful. You're proving that you're not a prisoner to your emotions. You're showing the world and yourself that your peace, your time, and your energy are too valuable to waste on pointless conflict or emotional chaos. Stepping back from the noise doesn't mean you're avoiding the issue. It means you're choosing clarity over confusion. It means you're creating space to breathe, to reflect, and to choose your response with wisdom. And that space? That's what silence gives you. Silence isn't just an absence of words. It's a presence of strength. It gives you the power to pause before reacting, to think through the situation before speaking, and to move forward with intention instead of impulse. That one moment of silence can often prevent an avalanche of regret. Here's something most people overlook. When you stop reacting, you give the other person a room to reveal who they truly are. You're no longer part of the noise, the back and forth, the defensiveness. And in that quiet space, you begin to see clearly. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself, defend your choices, or justify your actions to those who refuse to understand. Instead, you let your silence speak. Because in that silence, truth has a way of rising to the surface. People will either respect your calm or expose their own chaos. Either way, you gain clarity. You see who values peace and who thrives on drama. And you begin to recognize what's worth your energy and what's not. But more than anything, choosing not to react aligns you with something deeper. It connects you with your higher purpose. Because when you're constantly pulled into petty arguments, constantly drained by emotional turbulence, you can't hear the quiet voice of your calling. You can't feel the gentle pull of destiny trying to guide you forward. Silence creates space for something sacred, something the world often drowns out. It's in that quiet space where you begin to hear God's still, small voice. That gentle whisper becomes your compass. It leads you, directs you, and fills your spirit with a peace that surpasses understanding. Because when you're constantly reacting, you lose touch with that inner voice. You start to move according to external pressure rather than divine purpose. Your reactions, those impulsive responses to people or situations, can slowly pull you away from the path you were meant to walk. They can distract you from your calling, delay your growth, and even trap you in patterns of emotional chaos. Have you ever felt stuck in a cycle of reacting, regretting, and repeating? That's not where you were meant to live. But silence, intentional, disciplined silence, anchors you. It reconnects you with what truly matters. It realigns your heart with your mission. Instead of spinning in circles, you move forward with clarity. Instead of chasing every distraction, you stay rooted in your calling. So from this moment forward, make the choice. Choose silence over reaction. Choose peace over performance. Don't let the noise of the world hijack your emotions or dictate your worth. Don't let other people's negativity steal what took you so long to build. Your peace, your balance, your clarity. Take a breath. Take a step back. Resist the urge to jump in and respond to everything. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to explain your every move. Sometimes, your silence will speak volumes. It will echo louder than any words ever could. That calm, unwavering presence, that's your testimony. It tells the world that no matter what chaos surrounds you, you remain unshaken. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. It's wisdom. Not every argument deserves your voice. Not every person deserves your access. And not every situation is worthy of your energy. There will be moments in life when you need to draw a clear line. A line that says, this is where I stand, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is allowed to disturb the peace I've fought so hard to find. We've all had those experiences, where just one toxic conversation left our minds spinning and our hearts heavy. But you don't have to live in that turmoil. You can rise above it. You can choose to guard your peace like a treasure. And it starts with one bold decision, deciding who and what gets access to your inner space. Because when you allow chaos, toxicity, and negativity into your life unchecked, you're handing over your power. You're trading your joy for stress. You're giving away your calm to those who never earned it. But when you make a deliberate, conscious decision to guard your energy and protect your peace, you're reclaiming control over your life. You're saying, loud and clear, I value myself too much to engage in anything that threatens my well-being. And that, right there, is one of the most powerful positions you can stand in. Yet sadly, not enough people recognize that power or give themselves permission to walk in it. We live in a world that tells us we must be constantly available, always plugged in, always responding, always saying yes. The pressure to be everywhere, to support everyone, and to never miss a beat is exhausting. But here's the truth most people forget. Not everyone deserves your time, your energy, or your emotional space. Just because someone demands your attention doesn't mean they've earned it. Just because someone reaches out doesn't mean you have to reach back. Not every call deserves to be answered. Not every message needs a reply. And not every invitation requires your presence. Sometimes, silence is the boldest and most freeing response you can offer. When you embrace that truth, you begin to shift. You begin to create boundaries that allow your soul to rest and your spirit to breathe. And in that quiet space, you start to flourish. Have you ever noticed how grounded you feel after spending time alone, unplugged, and away from draining energy? That's because your peace isn't just a luxury, it's a lifeline. And like anything precious, it must be protected at all costs. Think of it like tending a beautiful garden. If you leave it unattended, weeds of stress, negativity, and distraction will quickly take over. But when you nurture that garden, when you water it with solitude, feed it with wisdom, and prune it of harmful influences, it begins to bloom. Your peace is that garden. And when you prioritize it, everything in your life becomes clearer, calmer, and more purposeful. One of the most liberating realizations you'll ever come to is this. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your energy. You don't owe anyone your time, your attention, or your emotional bandwidth, especially if they aren't adding anything meaningful to your life. We've been conditioned to believe we must always explain ourselves, justify our decisions, or defend our boundaries. But let me tell you, that belief is a trap. When you become truly grounded in who you are and firm in what you value, you begin to understand that peace isn't something you negotiate. It's something you preserve. And as you start drawing those lines and saying no to things that drain you, something amazing happens. The people who truly respect you, they'll understand without you ever needing to explain a thing. They will respect your boundaries. And more than that, they'll admire your strength. But be prepared, because not everyone will react with grace. Those who don't value your peace, the ones who thrive on taking from you, who try to manipulate your time or control your emotional state, will often try to make you feel guilty for setting limits. They may use pressure, guilt, or even silence to draw you back in. And that is exactly when you must stand tall and remind yourself, I will not allow my peace to be disrupted. You have to internalize this truth deeply and without apology. Their demand for your time, your energy, your emotional availability, that's not your responsibility to fulfill. You're not in charge of regulating other people's emotions, nor are you the solution to their chaos. And carrying that weight will only leave you drained and resentful. Guarding your peace isn't selfish, it's wise. It's not cold. It's courageous. It means understanding that you are human and that no one can give from an empty cup. If you're always saying yes, if you're constantly reacting, constantly getting pulled into situations that deplete you, it's only a matter of time before you burn out. Then you'll find yourself with nothing left. Not for yourself, and certainly not for the people who genuinely deserve your love, care, and support. But when you protect your energy, you create space for restoration. You preserve your strength so that you can invest it in the life you are truly meant to live. You'll find you have more to give to your calling, more to pour into meaningful relationships, and more clarity to focus on what genuinely matters. The growth, the peace, the purpose that propel you forward. There's a reason people say you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not just a cliche, it's a powerful truth. Your circle can either elevate you or slowly pull you under. So it's time to take inventory. Who are you letting into your world? Are they challenging you to grow or keeping you stuck? Are they encouraging your purpose or distracting you from it? The people you spend time with, those voices you allow closest to your heart, they shape the atmosphere of your life more than you realize. Protect your peace by choosing wisely. Surround yourself with people who respect your values, who uplift your vision, and who inspire you to rise higher. But remember, protecting your peace isn't something you do once and forget. It's an ongoing discipline. It's a daily practice of being intentional, of consistently evaluating who and what gets access to your energy, your time, and your mental space. It's about having the inner strength to say no when you need to, the clarity to set healthy boundaries, and the boldness to walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't align with your highest purpose. That kind of decision doesn't just protect your peace. It safeguards your future. It shields your potential, your growth, and the destiny you've been called to fulfill. Because knowing what to walk away from is just as important as knowing what to walk toward. To truly protect your peace, you must recognize your worth. Not the worth others assign to you. Not the version shaped by outside opinions, fleeting praise, or harsh criticism. But the deep, undeniable truth of who you are at your core. Your time, your energy, and your presence. These are not random. They are sacred. They are valuable. And they're not to be wasted on anything that diminishes your spirit or distracts you from your purpose. Far too often, we give others the pen and let them write our value for us. We let the world tell us what we're worth, basing our self-image on comments, comparisons, and passing judgments from people who don't even know our story. But here's the truth. Your worth was never meant to be defined by others. It comes from within. It comes from the fire you've walked through, the lessons you've learned, the light you carry inside. When you finally embrace that truth, something shifts. You stop chasing approval. You stop bending over backward, trying to be understood. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Why? Because you no longer need their permission to walk in your purpose. You no longer crave validation to know that you're enough. Your worth isn't attached to applause, popularity, or performance. It's anchored in your identity, your resilience, and the divine assignment placed on your life. And once you begin to walk in that truth, it changes everything. It shifts how you speak, how you think, and how you respond. It transforms the way you move through the world. You start making decisions based on what honors your soul, not just what looks good on the surface. You stop entertaining what's temporary and start investing in what's eternal. Every situation, every relationship, every opportunity, you begin to evaluate it through the lens of alignment. Does it serve your calling? Does it reflect your values? Does it move you forward? When you know your worth, you stop tolerating what tears you down. You no longer cling to things that are beneath your purpose. Instead, you walk with clarity. You live with direction. And most importantly, you protect your peace like the precious gift it is. Far too many of us spend years, sometimes even decades, trying to squeeze ourselves into spaces where we simply don't belong. We chase acceptance, approval, and affection from people who are never meant to carry those roles in our lives. We exhaust ourselves trying to earn love and respect from individuals who may not even be capable of giving it. And in doing so, we slowly lose sight of our own value. But when you finally know your worth, when you truly understand what you bring to the table, you stop feeling the need to chase. You stop fighting for attention. You stop begging to be seen, heard, or loved. Because deep down, you realize something powerful. Your worth isn't up for debate. Respect isn't something you plead for. It's something you naturally command by walking in truth, by showing up authentically, by honoring who you are. And the moment you begin to value yourself, the way you navigate life starts to shift. You become more intentional with who you give your time to. You no longer pour your energy into people who constantly drain you, disrespect you, or take you for granted. You begin to protect your heart like the precious treasure it is. You stop tolerating the things that once kept you stuck: manipulation, inconsistency, passive aggression, disrespect. They no longer have a place in your world because you understand that your peace, your joy, your emotional and mental well-being are not worth sacrificing just to please others who never valued you in the first place. That's when you begin to build healthy boundaries. Boundaries that aren't about shutting people out, but about honoring your self-worth. These boundaries become a visible reflection of your self-respect. They say, I know who I am, and I refuse to shrink myself for anyone. Let me be clear about something that many people forget. You are not required to give your everything to everyone. You don't have to say yes to every request, attend every event, answer every call, or respond to every message. You don't have to explain yourself every time you choose rest over performance. You're not here to be all things to all people. You're not a machine designed to run without rest, without limits, without pause. And if you try to live that way, you'll quickly find yourself burned out, emotionally depleted, and spiritually disconnected from your purpose. You are not just existing. You are a human being with a purpose, and that purpose is sacred. It is far too precious to be wasted on relationships that deplete you or on situations that do not support your growth. You were created with intention, and that intention deserves to be nurtured, not drained. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what about the people I love? What about those who really need me? And it's a valid question. It's only natural to want to show up for the people we care about. Your compassion is part of what makes you beautiful. But let me gently remind you of something vital. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're running on empty, if your spirit is weary and your soul is dry, you won't be able to show up for anyone. Not fully, not meaningfully. True worth begins with understanding that self-care is not selfish. In fact, it's the foundation of being able to serve others from a place of strength, not burnout. When you recognize your worth, you begin to protect your energy, your peace, your time, and your heart. You don't just do this for yourself. You do it for those who genuinely need the best version of you. Because the people who truly need you deserve your clarity, not your confusion, your presence, not your exhaustion. You also learn something important. Not everyone who demands your attention is truly in need. And not every relationship is meant to endure a lifetime. Some connections are meant to teach you, to stretch you, and then to be released. And that's okay. Letting go doesn't mean failure. Sometimes it means growth. As you lean deeper into your worth, something begins to shift. You stop attracting chaos and start welcoming calm. You begin drawing in the right people. The ones who see you, who honor your boundaries, who push you to rise higher without tearing you down. These are the people who help build your future, who walk beside you, not behind you. You no longer have space for those who consistently pull you backward, who belittle your dreams, or take your love for granted. You start choosing peace over pressure, alignment over attachment, purpose over people-pleasing. And here's the beautiful result. The more you walk in your worth, the clearer your path becomes. Your confidence grows. You begin making decisions with certainty, moving with boldness, and standing tall in the truth of who you are. You no longer apologize for your strength. You embrace it. You own it. And from that place, everything in your life begins to align with purpose. You stop chasing after validation the moment you understand a simple truth. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you are. You were already enough before they noticed you, before they accepted you, before they approved of you. And once you start believing that deep within your soul, everything begins to shift. You no longer beg to be seen. Instead, you stand tall, grounded in your worth. And something beautiful happens. People, opportunities, and open doors begin to align with the path meant just for you. Not because you forced it, but because you embraced your value. So let me challenge you right here, right now. Know your worth. Not someday, not when others recognize it, but today, this moment. Refuse to let anyone make you feel small, unseen, or unworthy. You're not here to be anyone's afterthought or background player. You are here to step fully into your calling, to live with both passion and peace, and to walk boldly in the destiny that was written into your DNA long before you took your first breath. When you begin to grasp your true value, something shifts deep inside. You no longer hand over your power to those who don't understand it. You stop letting the opinions of others shape how you see yourself. And most importantly, you begin to carry the authority, confidence, and clarity that were always meant to guide your life. And sometimes, the most powerful response you can give is no response at all. We often feel an overwhelming urge to jump in, defend our character, explain our choices, or justify our path, especially when we're being judged, misrepresented, or pushed. But what if your silence says more than your words ever could? What if the calmness in your spirit is louder than any argument you could make? There's strength in staying silent, a kind of inner mastery that says, I don't need to fight every battle. I choose peace. It takes far more strength to hold your tongue than to lash out, especially when emotions are running high, when you feel misunderstood, when someone's words sting. But silence, when chosen with intention, isn't weakness. It's wisdom in action. It's you reclaiming control. It's you deciding that not everything deserves your energy. Wouldn't you agree? True power often doesn't need a shout. Silence isn't about retreating or avoiding hard truths. It's not about running away or pretending nothing happened. Instead, silence is about wisdom. It's about restraint. It's about choosing a higher response. One that doesn't fuel the noise or add fuel to an already burning fire. When you remain silent in moments of conflict or criticism, you're not backing down. You're standing in strength, the kind of strength that's grounded, not reactive. Because here's the truth. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't have to justify your decisions or engage in every disagreement that crosses your path. Not every comment needs a reply. Not every insult deserves your attention. The world may expect you to jump in, to shout back, to defend your position, but you don't have to play that game. Why? Because the truth has a way of surfacing on its own. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to argue about your integrity. If you stay true to who you are, your actions will speak louder than anything you could ever say. Integrity always leaves a trail. And when your life reflects honesty, discipline, and peace, That message carries farther than any spoken defense. Far too often, people will try to bait you into their drama. They'll stir the pot, hoping you'll take the bait. Why? Because your reaction feeds them. Your anger fuels their chaos. Your words validate their insecurity. But when you choose silence instead, something powerful happens. You rob them of their control. You take back your peace. You shut the door to manipulation. You no longer allow someone else's dysfunction to determine your emotional state. You no longer give away your power to someone who thrives on conflict. And here's the best part. You begin to see people for who they truly are. Without your reaction to distract or defend, their true character comes to the surface. Now let me ask you something. How many times have you engaged in a heated argument, only to look back and think, was that even worth it? How many times have you let your emotions take the wheel, only to regret the words that came out in frustration? I know I've been there. And if you're honest, you probably have too. We've all been there. It's so easy to get swept up in the heat of the moment, to feel like you need to respond, defend your name, or prove your point. The pressure to stand your ground can feel overwhelming, especially when emotions are running high. But what if, instead of reacting, you stood firm in your strength and chose silence as your response? What if you decided that maintaining your peace was more valuable than winning a small, meaningless argument? The truth is, your actions will always speak louder than your words. When you stop engaging in every little disagreement, when you rise above the noise and choose not to react, people will begin to see something different in you. They'll start to notice a quiet strength, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you remained grounded. That kind of restraint isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's leadership. It's maturity. Silence, when chosen wisely, is never an admission of guilt. It doesn't mean you're backing down or conceding. It means you're strong enough to know that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on drama. It means you've mastered the art of choosing what deserves your response and what doesn't. And believe me, the world takes note. People may not understand it right away. They may misread your silence as indifference. But over time, they'll come to respect it. They'll see that you don't get rattled by every opinion, provocation, or emotional jab. They'll notice that while others are shouting to be heard, you're standing in peace, and that speaks volumes. You become someone who carries integrity not just in your words, but in your choices. Someone who knows when to speak and when to pause. Someone who refuses to be pulled into every storm that passes by. Your silence doesn't render you invisible. It makes you powerful, because in that silence, you hold the reins. You remain in control, not of others, but of yourself. And that's where real strength lies. When you choose silence, you carve out space to think clearly, to feel deeply, and to respond with purpose. You give yourself a sacred pause to rise above the chaos. And sometimes, the most impactful thing you can do is simply let the noise pass. Let others shout. Let them vent. Let them stir the air with drama. But you stay still. You don't take the bait. You don't hand over your power. You choose peace. And in doing so, you reclaim your strength. You don't always have to respond. You don't have to explain. You don't have to get involved in every conflict that knocks at your door. Your silence can speak louder than any comeback. It becomes your silent strength, your calm resistance against the chaos. It shows that you are grounded, that you're not swayed by distractions, and that your focus is fixed on something much deeper and far more meaningful. And that, right there, is what truly sets you apart. Not your words, but your restraint. Not your need to be heard, but your ability to stay centered in a world that thrives on noise. So, don't be afraid of silence. Don't fear being misunderstood for choosing peace over proving a point. Because when you stand in that silence with confidence, your life begins to speak for you. Silence is not passive, it's powerful. When you choose peace over reaction, you give yourself permission to protect your energy, your purpose, and your path. And often, that peace does more for your well-being, your growth, and your future than any heated conversation or defensive explanation ever could. As life unfolds, there comes a moment of realization, sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, that not everyone who starts the journey with you is meant to finish it beside you. Seasons shift, people evolve, or sometimes they stay the same while you grow into something more. You begin to notice the misalignment. The energy that once connected now feels distant. And while it's difficult to accept, the truth becomes clear. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next chapter. And that's okay. Letting go doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It doesn't mean that the love you shared wasn't real or that the memories weren't meaningful. What it does mean is that you're now wise enough to protect your peace and bold enough to prioritize your purpose. You're choosing growth even when it hurts. Because sometimes love isn't about holding on tighter. It's about knowing when to release. Sometimes love looks like walking away with grace, with compassion, and with clarity. It means acknowledging when a relationship no longer nurtures the person you're becoming. And that's one of the hardest, yet most powerful decisions we ever have to make. Because here's the truth. Just because you've poured your heart, your time, and your energy into someone doesn't guarantee they're meant to journey with you forever. Some people were only meant for a chapter, not the whole book. And while that realization can feel like a loss, it's actually a step toward your next level of freedom. Sometimes people simply outgrow one another. It's not always because of conflict or betrayal. It's just life. Paths shift, priorities evolve, and as you grow into your purpose, you may find that certain relationships no longer align with where you're headed. And when that moment comes, you must have the courage to release, gracefully, without resentment, and without clinging to what no longer serves your journey. Letting go doesn't mean you're bitter. It doesn't mean you're angry or harboring a grudge. It means you're choosing peace over pressure. It's about honoring the reality that people change, and sometimes the best thing you can do, for both you and them, is allow each other the space to walk your own paths. What if their role in your story was only meant for a season, not a lifetime? You see, your life has a mission, and not everyone is meant to be a part of that mission. Some companions are only meant to walk with you for a while, to teach you something, to support you in a chapter, but not the whole book. That's why you have to ask yourself, honestly and without fear, is this person, this relationship, this environment helping me grow, or is it keeping me small? Is it feeding my soul or draining my spirit? If the answer points to resistance, to stagnation, or to emotional weight, then the time has come to let go. It's never easy, especially when the person in question has been in your life for years. They may be someone you've laughed with, cried with, built memories and milestones alongside. But nostalgia is not a reason to stay stuck. Sentiment alone cannot sustain your growth. Clinging to relationships out of guilt, comfort, or habit can quietly hold you back from everything you're meant to become. It's like trying to climb a mountain while dragging a suitcase full of things you no longer need. Eventually, you lose momentum. You feel heavy. You get tired. And all along, the summit is waiting for you to climb freely. So trust this truth. What is truly meant for you will never require you to shrink. It will never hold you hostage in the past. It will inspire you, elevate you, and help you soar. You don't have to drag anyone into your future. If they're meant to be there, they'll meet you at the next level. When you finally let go, you create space for something better to enter your life. You open the door to healthier relationships, meaningful opportunities, and new levels of growth you couldn't reach while holding on to what was weighing you down. Sometimes we cling to the familiar not because it's fulfilling, but because it feels safe. We're afraid of what might happen if we walk away. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of not knowing what comes next. But here's the truth. When you let go, you break free from the chains of fear and uncertainty. You step into a future that is no longer limited by your past. You take a leap of faith, not just into the unknown, but into something greater. Something that aligns more closely with your purpose, your values, and the person you're becoming. Letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. In fact, it's one of the most powerful acts of self-respect. It's your way of saying, I know my worth and I won't settle for less. It's choosing yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors your well-being. It's turning away from toxic cycles, draining connections, and anything that keeps you stagnant, small, or spiritually depleted. You are worthy of the peace that comes when you release what no longer serves you. You deserve the clarity that comes when you're no longer tangled in confusion or emotional clutter. Growth always begins with a clearing. When you choose to let go, you're doing more than walking away. You're protecting your heart, guarding your energy, and planting seeds for your future. And remember this, letting go doesn't mean the people you leave behind are bad. It doesn't mean you stop caring. Sometimes the hardest goodbye is to someone you still love. But maturity is knowing that love isn't always enough to justify staying. Sometimes respect for yourself requires distance. People can be kind-hearted, supportive, and even well-meaning, but still not be the right fit for your journey. And that's perfectly okay. Letting go of someone doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean you're rejecting them as a person. It simply means that your paths, once aligned, have now started to move in different directions. It's about realizing that your time, your energy, and your presence are sacred. You don't have to keep pouring into relationships that no longer reflect your values, your goals, or your personal growth. It takes real courage to let go. It's not easy to walk away from what feels familiar, what once brought you comfort, or the people you've known for years. But when you finally make that choice, you step into your own power. You begin to move in alignment with your purpose. You shed the weight of what's no longer serving you, and you create space for new possibilities to flourish. That's when you begin to discover who you're truly meant to become. As you let go of the past, of relationships or situations that no longer align, you set yourself free. Free to walk your own unique path. Free to move forward with strength, clarity, and confidence. Letting go isn't always about anger or frustration. It's not about cutting people off harshly. Sometimes it's a quiet, loving decision to release, to wish them well, and to trust that both of you will grow in your own ways. It's a sign not of weakness, but of maturity, self-respect, and wisdom. Letting go is your declaration that you honor your peace and protect your purpose. It's a clear message to yourself and to the world that your growth matters more than clinging to what's no longer meant for you. So don't be afraid to release what's holding you back. Don't fear walking away from people or situations that no longer uplift you. The journey may be uncomfortable at first, but it leads to healing, clarity, and fulfillment. And when you let go, you make space, beautiful, open space, for everything that is meant to enter your life. Wishing you continued peace, strength, and joy on your journey. Stay true to your path, take care of your heart, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more inspiration. Wishing you health, happiness, and all the growth your soul is ready for.